Welcome back to the Church of Doom, brothers and sisters. In today's video, I've got 4 different exploration-themed encounters that you can drop into any RPG you're playing, be it D&D, Morkborg, any of the dozens I've got on my shelves all throughout here, right? They're system agnostic. And, quick plug for the Patreon. This was voted on by my Patreons for free. If you follow me on Patreon, you can vote on what kind of my next creative mission is, and this is what they wanted. So, let's jump into it, right? Encounter number 1 I call the Conscious Doorway. The party, which for today we are using the Unblinking Night Mini. We've got the Prophet, or the Mutated Prophet. And then we've also got one of my favorites, the Bounty Mother. So cool. So we're going to say that they're exploring a dungeon and they come across a doorway with no door in it. It is clearly empty. They can see through maybe into just like an empty chamber beyond. They've got these weird sort of brain studies on the sides with cables and wires going up to some sort of maybe like a brain design, or it could be like a pulsing brain. Sorry if my fingers look gross. I was gluing these all onto cardboard today. Whoop, spoiler, you're going to see what happens here. But the players arrive at this doorway, and through some investigation, they can figure out a lot of different things. Maybe this doorway will lead to the next chamber, like the actual real next chamber, or maybe it's some sort of portal, and it will take them wherever they want to go. But here's how it works. I'm betting you can kind of have a guess here with all the brain imagery, but all of the characters have to simultaneously focus on this doorway and conjure in their mind as clear a picture as they possibly can of where they want to go on the other side of that door, right? So if you've got a party like most that dump intelligence, this is going to be really tough for them. And it's not just going to be tough because it might not take them where they wanted to go, but because when they eventually do succeed or fail, regardless, the door appears. And then they have a choice. Do they open it or not? Do they think they succeeded? And I also included an extra little card here that just leads to like the astral plane or something, but this could be an opportunity to introduce some sort of demi-planar villain. If they're wandering through a dungeon and the party just opens a random door, what happens if it opens to the demi-planar prison of some sort of like high demon? This is mid-kit bash. I haven't done a lot of the final work, but those are some owlbear arms and, what is the bug thing that can stun people? Umber Hulk. I swapped those out for the horns on this goat. But anyways, what if that was what was waiting for them when they opened the door if they failed? Or maybe it's just some sort of like sentinel guardian type thing that's just comes out to fight them. Some sort of like wizard couldn't be imprisoned, or it goes exactly where they wanted to. Maybe they open the door and on the other side is the inn. And they're like, thank God we can escape this dungeon. We don't want to ever come back here. And the party can flee through the door. Lots of other things you could do with that, like if they fail, do they get multiple attempts? Do they take some psychic damage? I don't know. I'm going to leave that all up to you. But that was encounter idea number 1 for an exploration dungeon encounter, the Conscious Doorway. Idea number 2 is the Fay Gate. So clearly this looks like it might belong like out in the wilderness or something, which could totally work. But we're going to assume this is some sort of Fey dungeon or a dungeon that has been overgrown with blight and things like that. So we've got our characters. They enter the dungeon, or they enter this room, and they see a gate. This really intricate, ornate gate that clearly has like Fey iconography and stuff on it. And it doesn't seem to lead anywhere. Like maybe it's in the middle of the room. Hell, we could even swap these cards. I think that's kind of more interesting, actually. What if this gate is just in the middle of the room? Because if I was a player and I saw that immediately implies to me, okay, this is like a magical gateway. A door in the middle of any sort of room is clearly... You got some shenanigans going on here. So how do they open this gate though, right? Because it's going to have some sort of little lock on it, but they don't have the key. They haven't found the key before they got here. All that's really in the room with them, besides the gate, is some really strange Fey gardens with maybe they're poisonous plants. They could be necrotic plants. It could be just whatever you want, right? That's a fun opportunity to drop some harvestable magic plants in here. But the key, the key to finding the key is over here in this weird sort of pixie type statue thing that's holding this pot. And I have plants in here just so that you kind of have a clear idea of what it is. But when they arrive, there's nothing in here. And through some investigation, either of this pot or maybe the gate, or maybe they learned it earlier on. This is what brought them to the dungeon. The way to get the key is you have to grow it. You have to have somebody come over here and make some sort of nature check. And this is a great opportunity if you've got characters with herbalism kits, you've got druids, rangers, your mushroom spore people, whatever. Let them highlight their character here and attempt to grow the key out of the pot. Now, if they succeed, great. open that gate, go into the Feywild, go into wherever you want to go. But if they fail, you got lots of opportunities. I have some like corpse flowers on here, and you probably can't. Well, actually, maybe you could if I can get close enough. They kind of look like little skulls on these little flower things, right? So already sort of a necromancy vibe going here. So if they failed, what happens if a bunch of Fey undead start sprouting up out of these plants? I have also a fun satyr. He could maybe be waiting here for them, right? But anyways, you've got the monsters who could come up out of the ground and start attacking them. Or maybe it turns all of the plants poisonous, and now they're like, well, are we going to stay in this room and keep trying to open the gate, or are we going to get out of here before all the pollen kills us? So I really, really like this one, especially because it's just so obvious that you need to do something with this gate, and it's a great way to highlight a skill that doesn't get used very often with nature. All right, encounter number 3 is a really, really devious one, I think. I call it the magnetic hallway. So how it works is the party arrives at the end of... Oh, that's the bad guy. The party arrives in this hallway, and they see this very, very strange obelisk. I'll get kind of close so you can see it, but it kind of obviously looks like a magnet at the top, and in fact, those are just little magnets that I digitally kit bashed into that piece of terrain. But here's what happens. The players will probably get a sense of, okay, that looks like a magnet, that's magnetic, but the characters probably don't know what that is. So if the unblinking knight or if the paladin or whoever in all of their armor steps into this area or gets close enough, what happens is they need to make a strength save to avoid getting pulled and stuck to this magnetic obelisk that is shooting out this invisible, magical magnetic field or whatever. And then when the character is stuck, that's when like the real encounter happens. I know I said this was exploration based, but that's more like this is the exploration part. If they fail that, it can trigger a combat where, you know, you've maybe got your cultists or you've got some hobgoblins or whatever's in this dungeon. They appear at the other side, and this person, whoever's stuck here, is pretty screwed because anybody else who might try and go and save them, more than likely, unless they're like a druid or something, has armor on them, and they're also at risk of all getting pulled over, getting stuck here, and then the cultists are just taking pot shots with their crossbows or their slings or whatever. Maybe they don't use metal ammunition because the magnetic field would mess with it. Or, here's an idea, if they're using heavy crossbows, maybe it makes it do even more damage because the magnetic field is pulling those arrows in even faster. Either way, the character's in a really, really bad spot. And the obvious, or maybe the easiest solution is some investigation back here before they even enter into the area. And then when they see it's magnetic, they say, let's lose our armor, let's lose our weapons, we can go up and investigate it on our own without any of that stuff trying to pull us in. And then maybe like the key to deactivating this thing is at the base of the obelisk, or if you want to be extra devious, maybe it's some sort of strange machine at the end of the hallway. So they have to get past this somehow to even turn it off. But doing so requires losing your armor, losing your weapons, and you've got, you know, your demon enemies or whatever. Oh, that would be so cool if you did demons. Especially this one just had this idea. It doesn't have any metal on it. So it could just run up and just start going to town, clawing these people to death, because there's nothing that's going to affect them with the magnetic field. So maybe, though, this character can rip themselves free with the strength, get over here and destroy this, which then shuts the whole thing down. That's the gist of the encounter here, is you trap characters using the thing that is always on them, their armor, and is pretty difficult to take off. I also have a variant, though, of this that is like a repulsive type magnetic field. You can see this one, it's like everything's getting pulled in, but with this one, it's the opposite. So the characters might go walking up and then they get pushed back by the strange magnetic field. You could even do something like this if you wanted to make it a kind of a clever trap. Maybe, sorry, one sec, I'm just having this idea. Maybe you've got one that is hidden, or they're hidden in the floor. And you've got the characters enter into the scene, they start walking down the hallway, and then what happens? The magnetic one pulls all of the characters with armor towards it, and then anyone who might be left back here, this one gets swapped with the repulsive one, and it pushes them back into here. I actually don't know how that would work, because if they didn't get pulled here, why would this one push them back? I don't know, but just kind of a cool idea that you can do whatever you want with. Let's move on to idea number 4. This one I killed basically a whole party with. This was pretty brutal. And I ran this in a fun homebrew campaign. So the players end up in the hallway, and at the end of it is a dwarven anvil. Shout out if you know what this little dwarf design is from. But they see this anvil. It has a hammer sitting on it, and if I get close enough here, hopefully you can see there's like musical notes that I kind of added to the anvil. And then in front of it is this hallway that is flooded with lava, and then the door or the hallway continues at the other end. Obviously, if you've got flying shenanigans, this might seem pretty easy to kind of overcome, but we're just going to assume you know how to handle that, or you don't have a lot of flying in your encounters and stuff like that, because flying just breaks things so easy. So anyways, the way to get across this lava bridge is somebody has to go up to the anvil, pick up the hammer, or even you could have two hammers, and they have to bang on this anvil following this sort of dwarven smithing chant. And if they are successful on the first attempt, this dwarven column rotates up out of the lava, allowing someone to step onto it. And then they have to keep playing. This person, this is key, they have to stay here and keep playing. And once they succeed on the next check, one comes up, the character moves to the next one, and so on and so forth. But here's where it gets deadly, and this is what kind of messed my players up pretty bad, is if they fail, or if they leave the anvil for whatever reason, let's say they came up into here and then they got ambushed by some orcs that came running up behind, and they're like, oh my god, we gotta go fight these guys. Now you've got someone who is stranded out on this bridge of lava, and if the music stops playing, these go back down into the ground, and you could end up having somebody like stranded on this middle one starting to lower with all of the lava rising up, and they have to either make an attempt to jump this way to avoid the orcs, or they go back to join their party, and this is assuming that like they have an opportunity to maybe even run past all of the bridges that are still up too. You could do that, but when I ran it, I had it that once you moved from one column to the next, it kind of receded back down, so you couldn't just run back. I think that was honestly a little too cruel, and I like this idea more, that so long as they're playing this anvil, the whole bridge will slowly start to lift, and then you have this opportunity when they abandon the anvil of like you have to run back as they are chasing you down this hallway. I hope that all made sense. That last one I got a little lost on that idea, but still, encounter number 4, the lava anvil bridge, was super deadly, super fun to run. If you liked all of these ideas, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, give your tithing that way. Also, you can get all of these cards, all of them, plus a lot of like my minis that I've made into Digi-Minis on my Patreon for $3 a month. I've got 2 other full sets of like dungeon designs here. And I'm just working really hard on this stuff, and I think it's awesome, and I think it can really not only just change the way that you run D&D, obviously with this mapping style, which shout out to Index Card RPG, that's what this is from, but I also just think you can have so much fun making all of this stuff. So go check that out, and thanks for watching.